to cover the co-pays when Rosalie's family hit their insurance limit. While the rest of us were complaining about meeting our girlfriend's parents once a month, Blake was at every single family dinner, helping Rosalie's mother cook, helping her dad fix the roof, and teaching her little brother to drive. 3 years in, Blake proposed. He got down on one knee at her favorite restaurant with her whole family there. With her grandmother's ring he'd personally restored, and gave this speech about how she saved him from being a workaholic with no purpose. The whole restaurant started clapping. Rosalie was crying so hard she could barely say yes. The wedding planning was insane. Blake handled everything she got stressed about. Vendor calls, seating arrangements, dealing with her crazy aunt who demanded vegan options for everyone. The day finally came. It was a beautiful beach and packed with 300 guests. Rosalie looked incredible walking down that aisle, her dad tearing up next to her, and Blake standing at the altar with tears already running down his face. The officiant, Blake's best friend, went through all the traditional stuff. The readings, the vows. Rosalie went first, and by the end, everyone was dabbing their eyes with tissues. Then came the big moment. Do you, Blake, take Rosalie to be your lawfully wedded wife? The whole beach was silent, everyone waiting for that enthusiastic yes we all expected. Blake looked at Rosalie for what felt like forever. Then he took a deep breath and said, clear as day, 2 hours ago, I would have hoisted you up in the air and screamed yes. But now, you disgust me. And I never want to see you again in my life. He turned and walked away. Rosalie's face went from confused to horrified in about 2 seconds. She literally collapsed right there in her wedding dress. The best friend stood there with his mouth open. Blake's mom started running after him, screaming his name. Rosalie's bridesmaids rushed to her, trying to get her to breathe. The whole beach erupted. People were standing up, shouting, asking what the hell just happened. Blake just kept walking, got to the car park where a cab was waiting for him, and drove off. Nobody could make sense of it. His groomsmen were blowing up his phone, getting nothing. Rosalie had to be sedated and taken to the hospital. Her brother started calling hospitals thinking Blake had a psychotic break. Then Blake's best man, Tony, finally got through to him that night. What he found out made everyone's anger turn to complete shock. That morning, Blake had logged into his old Hotmail account from high school. He was looking for the first email he'd ever sent Rosalie asking her to meet for coffee. He wanted to quote it in his vows to show how far they'd come from that nervous kid asking her out. But in that old inbox, buried between spam and old school assignments, was an email from 2 years ago with the subject line, "You're a monster." It was from a woman named Jessica, someone Blake had hooked up with when he was 15 at summer camp. In the email, Jessica explained that Blake had a daughter he never knew existed from that one night they spent together 12 years ago. The girl, Mia, had tracked Blake down when she was 10. She'd taken 3 buses alone to show up at Blake and Rosalie's house with a picture of her mom and a DNA test she'd saved allowance for. But Blake wasn't home, and Rosalie answered the door. When Mia explained who she was, Rosalie apparently lost it. She told this 10-year-old girl that her dad said she was a mistake, that she'd ruin his perfect life, that he never wanted kids, especially not some bastard from a one-night stand. Rosalie went on for 20 minutes, telling her Blake said if Mia ever showed up to make sure she knew she was worthless, unwanted, that her mom was a gold digger who tried to trap him. Rosalie told this child that Blake said, "I'd rather die than have you call me dad," and that he'd already decided to pretend she never existed. The kid left sobbing, never tried to contact Blake again. She tried to take her own life 6 months later, leaving a note to Blake about how she was sorry for existing. Rosalie intercepted that letter and never told Blake anything. When Blake read this email, he broke down and decided to give Rosalie exactly what she gave his daughter: complete public humiliation. Hours after this information spread, Rosalie went missing. That's when Blake called us. "She's going after Mia. Please help." I grabbed my keys while Blake was still talking and started making calls to everyone who might know where Rosalie would go. My first call went to her college roommate, who said she hadn't heard from her in months. Tony was already checking Rosalie's Instagram and Facebook on his laptop, scrolling through her posts for any hints about places she might run to. Blake's hands were shaking so bad he couldn't even hold his phone steady, just kept dropping it and picking it back up. I dialed 3 more numbers while Tony searched, getting nothing useful from any of them. Then I remembered Jessica's number was in Blake's phone from when she'd sent that email 2 years ago. I grabbed his phone and found it in his contacts, my fingers fumbling with the screen. Jessica picked up on the 3rd ring, and her voice got tight with fear when I explained why we were calling. She told me Mia was home but had been anxious all day, kept asking if something bad was happening even before anyone told her about the wedding disaster. I could hear her moving around, probably checking locks on doors while we talked. She said she'd already noticed a car driving by their house twice that morning, which wasn't normal for their quiet street. We decided to split into teams right away to cover more ground. Tony grabbed another friend and they headed to Rosalie's parents' house to see if she'd gone there. Blake and I got in my car to drive toward Jessica's neighborhood on the other side of town. Blake kept saying the same thing over and over while I drove, that he should have handled it differently. He said the public humiliation at the wedding might have pushed Rosalie completely over the edge. His voice was cracking and he kept punching his leg, angry at himself for not thinking about consequences. Jessica texted me their address, but said she was already packing a bag to take Mia to her sister's house. She didn't trust that Rosalie wouldn't show up, especially after what happened 2 years ago when Mia tried to contact Blake. The drive felt like it took forever, even though I was going 20 over the speed limit the whole way. Blake started telling me more details from the email he'd found that morning. He said Mia had saved her allowance for months to pay for that DNA test herself. She'd practiced what she wanted to say to him, wrote it down and memorized it before taking 3 buses alone to find him. The thought of his daughter preparing so carefully just to get destroyed by Rosalie made Blake punch my dashboard hard enough to crack it. He didn't even apologize, just kept talking about how Mia was only 10 years old when she showed up at their door. Tony called while we were still driving and said Rosalie's parents hadn't seen her since yesterday, but they were worried because she'd called them crying, so hard they couldn't understand what she was saying. Her mom mentioned that Rosalie had been struggling with anxiety ever since her lupus diagnosis last year. She'd been using control as a way to cope with feeling like her body was betraying her. Tony said her dad was getting in his car to help look for her too. We finally reached Jessica's neighborhood and I slowed down, checking every car we passed. Then Blake grabbed my arm and pointed to a blue Honda parked 3 blocks from Jessica's house. It was definitely Rosalie's car, still had the parking sticker from her gym on the windshield. Blake wanted to jump out and confront her immediately, but I held him back. We needed to call the police first and get this documented properly in case things went bad. While we waited for the police, I asked Blake to log back into his old email account on my phone. I wanted to verify the headers and metadata myself, make sure this wasn't some elaborate fake. The email was definitely real, came from Jessica's IP address with medical records attached from Mia's hospitalization.
In the neighborhood aspect of building business, you think big. We're making the Swag Shop a global brand, and I'm determined never to lose the values of this neighborhood.
Flex left, flex right, and double flex. Fine.
The suicide note Mia had written was there too, addressed to Blake, saying she was sorry for existing and ruining his life. Reading it made me sick to my stomach knowing Rosalie had hidden this from Blake for 2 whole years. Detective Rita Graves showed up about 15 minutes later in an unmarked car. She took our statements calmly, but I could tell she was taking it seriously by how many notes she wrote. She radioed for another unit to check on Jessica's house while she walked over to check Rosalie's car. The car was empty, but the engine was still warm, meaning Rosalie had just left it recently. Rita told us to stay put while she coordinated with the other officers. That's when Jessica called again with panic in her voice. She said Rosalie had shown up at her sister's house, but left as soon as she saw Jessica's car in the driveway. Now she was apparently heading toward Mia's school, even though it was Saturday, and the building would be closed. Jessica said a neighbor had seen Rosalie's car speeding in that direction just minutes ago. Rita immediately got back in her car and told us to follow her to the school. Blake gripped the door handle so hard his knuckles went white, while I stayed right behind Rita's unmarked car through 2 yellow lights and a stop sign she barely slowed down for. She was talking into her radio the whole time, using cop codes I didn't understand, but Blake seemed to get because his face got paler with each transmission. The school came into view after about 10 minutes, one of those newer buildings with lots of glass and a big playground visible from the street. Rita pulled into the parking lot and we followed, my tires squealing a bit on the turn because I was going too fast. She parked near the main entrance and got out, holding up her hand for us to stay put while she walked around the building toward the playground area. Blake started to open his door, but I grabbed his arm and reminded him we needed to let the cop handle this first. Through the chain-link fence, we could see Rosalie sitting on one of those spring rider things kids bounce on, shaped like a horse, just rocking back and forth with papers in her hands. Rita approached slowly, her hand near her belt but not on her gun, and sat down on the bench about 10 feet from Rosalie. Blake was breathing so hard the windows were fogging up, and I cracked mine open to get some air flowing. Rosalie looked up when Rita sat down, and even from the car we could see her face was a mess, makeup running everywhere, her wedding dress torn at the bottom where she must have caught it on something. She held up the papers toward Rita, waving them around, her mouth moving fast like she was trying to explain something important. Rita just nodded, keeping her body relaxed, not making any sudden moves. My phone buzzed and I saw 3 texts from my girlfriend asking where the hell I was since we were supposed to meet her parents for dinner at 7, and it was already 6:30. I typed back quickly that there was an emergency with Blake and she immediately called, which I had to decline because Blake was trying to hear what was happening on the playground. She texted back that this was exactly what she meant about me always putting Blake first and that his drama wasn't my problem to fix. Blake saw the texts over my shoulder and told me I should go, but there was no way I was leaving him alone right now. Rita stood up slowly and helped Rosalie to her feet, not grabbing her or anything, just offering her hand, which Rosalie took after a second. They walked toward the patrol car together, Rosalie stumbling a bit in her heels on the playground mulch. When they passed our car, Rosalie looked right at Blake through the window, and her mouth formed words that were clearly, "I'm sorry." But Blake turned his head away, staring out the other window instead. Rita helped Rosalie into the back of her patrol car, not with handcuffs or anything rough, just guiding her in gently before closing the door. She walked over to us, and Blake rolled down his window to hear what she had to say. Rita explained that Rosalie wasn't under arrest, but was being taken for evaluation at the county hospital's psychiatric unit, standard procedure when someone might be a danger to themselves. Blake asked about Mia, and Rita said she'd already confirmed with the other unit that Jessica and Mia were safe at Jessica's sister's house. She gave Blake her card and said she'd call with updates, then got back in her car and drove off with Rosalie in the back. Blake called Jessica right away to set up a meeting, and after some back and forth about where would be safe and neutral, they agreed on the main library downtown in an hour. The drive there was quiet, except for Blake's fingers drumming on his knee, that nervous habit he'd had since college. The library was one of those old buildings with columns out front, and we waited in the children's section where Jessica had said to meet. They showed up about 10 minutes after us, Jessica holding Mia's hand tight as they walked through the automatic doors. Mia was smaller than I expected for 12, maybe 4'10", wearing jeans and a science camp t-shirt, her dark hair in a ponytail just like Blake always wore his when he went running. She had his exact same eyes, that unusual green color, and when she got nervous, her fingers started tapping against her leg in the same pattern Blake's were doing. Blake got down on one knee when they got close, staying at her eye level instead of towering over her, and told her simply that he hadn't known she existed, but was sorry for everything she went through. Mia looked at him for a long moment, then gave a tiny nod before stepping back closer to her mom. Jessica pulled out her phone and started showing us screenshots she'd been saving for 2 years, Rosalie's Instagram posts about being happily child-free by choice, and how some people just aren't meant to be parents, posted just weeks after turning Mia away. There was also a voicemail she played quietly where Rosalie's voice, slurred like she'd been drinking, said she'd make sure Blake never found out about that little mistake, who showed up at their door. Blake's face got redder with each piece of evidence, and I worried he might punch something, but he just clenched his fists and stayed quiet. That's when Tony showed up, practically running into the library, his phone in his hand showing us how the wedding video had gone completely viral with over 3 million views already. People were making reaction videos, news sites were picking it up, and someone had leaked that it involved a secret child, which meant reporters were already calling Blake's parents and showing up at their house. Blake's phone rang right then, his boss's name on the screen, and when he answered, we could hear the man practically yelling about how clients were calling with questions about the viral video of their accountant destroying his wedding. Blake tried explaining briefly what had happened, mentioning the hidden daughter and the suicide attempt, but his boss cut him off and said he was placed on immediate unpaid leave while they figured out how to handle the situation. Blake hung up and just stood there for a second, then looked at Mia and said none of this was her fault, that adults sometimes made terrible choices, but she didn't cause any of it. Jessica said they needed to go because this was a lot for Mia to process, but she'd be in touch about maybe setting up another meeting with proper supervision. As they walked away, Mia looked back once, studying Blake's face like she was trying to memorize it, then followed her mom out the door. 20 minutes later, Rita's patrol car pulled back into the library parking lot, and she walked over to where we were still standing by Blake's car. She had that tired look cops get when they've been dealing with messy situations all day, and she rubbed her eyes before telling us that Rosalie was now at the county hospital under a 72-hour hold after telling the intake nurse she wanted to hurt herself. Her parents were already there filling out paperwork and sitting in the waiting room while doctors did their evaluation, and Rita said Rosalie wouldn't be able to leave or contact anyone during the hold period no matter what. Blake slumped against his car when he heard this, and I could see him processing everything that had happened in just a few hours from walking away at the altar to his ex being locked in a mental ward. Jessica called right then, and Blake put it on speaker so we could all hear her say she'd been thinking about the situation and decided Blake could write Mia a letter that Jessica would read first before deciding if Mia should see it. She made it super clear that Mia's safety came first, and Blake immediately agreed without any pushback or trying to negotiate for more. We drove to my apartment since Blake's place still had wedding stuff everywhere, and he sat at my kitchen table that evening with a legal pad and a pen crossing out lines and starting over again and again. I watched him write things like, "I'm sorry," then scratch it out and try "I didn't know," then cross that out too and start completely fresh on a new page. He worked for 3 hours straight just trying to find the right words that would take responsibility without making excuses or asking for anything from a kid who'd already been through so much. My girlfriend Sarah showed up around 9 and saw Blake still writing at the table and immediately pulled me into the bedroom where she said I needed to stop getting so involved or she was done with our relationship. I tried explaining that a child's safety was at stake and we couldn't just abandon Blake when he was trying to make things right, But she said Blake created this whole situation with his dramatic revenge stunt at the wedding. She packed an overnight bag while telling me I was being stupid for caring so much about someone else's drama, and that Blake was a grown man who could handle his own problems without me holding his hand. I followed her to the door, trying to convince her to stay, but she left anyway, saying she'd be at her sister's place until I figured out my priorities. The next morning, my phone rang at 7, and it was Jessica saying Mia had read the letter, and wanted to ask Blake one question through her mom, which was why did he believe Rosalie instead of looking for Mia himself when she first tried to contact him? Blake was already awake on my couch, and when I told him the question, his face just crumpled because it was such a fair point that cut right to the heart of everything. He spent an hour recording a voice message on his phone, explaining that he never knew Mia existed because Rosalie had hidden everything, but he also took responsibility for not being easier to find when Mia first started looking. He admitted he should have been more careful about his past and kept better track of people he'd been with, even if it was just a teenage thing at summer camp. Tony came over that afternoon with his laptop, saying he'd been helping Blake go through old emails to see if there were other messages they'd missed, and he'd found something weird in Blake's email settings. Rosalie had set up mail filters 2 years ago that automatically deleted anything with certain keywords like daughter, or child, or Jessica, or camp, which meant she'd been screening his communications for years without him knowing. Blake stared at the screen showing all these filter rules Rosalie had created, and his hands started shaking when he realized how long she'd been controlling what information reached him. That's when Blake's phone buzzed with a text from one of Rosalie's bridesmaids saying she needed to tell him something important.
Jen loved her Gain flings. Then Brad showed up with Gain rinse and beads. When they mixed their scents, they discovered they were scent mates. Smells like it's gonna last. Mix, match, more happy with Gain.
I traded my broken phone for a Galaxy S25 Plus on T-Mobile. And with what we're saving, we splurged on a Nati Natasha concert.
Get a new Samsung Galaxy S25 Plus with Galaxy AI on us when you trade in your current phone in any condition.
Important about what Rosalie did that morning before the wedding. The bridesmaid said Rosalie had pawned her grandmother's jewelry that Blake had restored and withdrew their entire wedding fund from the joint account before disappearing, which was thousands of dollars meant for their honeymoon and new apartment. She was clearly planning something, but nobody knew what, and the bridesmaid was worried Rosalie might try to leave the state or do something worse once her hold was up. While we were processing this news, Tony's phone started blowing up with notifications because someone had posted the wedding video online, and it had already gotten 3 million views in just a few hours. People were making reaction videos and news sites were picking it up, and someone had leaked that it involved a secret child, which meant the whole story was going completely viral. Blake started getting messages on every platform with some people calling him a hero for exposing Rosalie, while others sent death threats calling him a deadbeat dad who abandoned his kid. Jessica texted that she was meeting with a family lawyer named Evander Pierce that afternoon to set up legal framework for paternity testing and custody arrangements because she wanted everything official to protect Mia from any future drama or people trying to contact them about the viral video. Blake met with Evander Pierce the next morning and signed every paper without even reading them. He wrote a check for 12 years of back child support right there in the office. Pierce had to tell him 3 times that the paternity test needed to happen first, but Blake kept pushing the check across the desk. He also pulled out his phone and transferred $5,000 into a new account for Mia's therapy costs. Pierce took notes while Blake listed all his assets and income sources for the official calculations. The whole meeting took less than an hour because Blake agreed to everything without negotiating. That afternoon, Rosalie's parents showed up at Blake's apartment looking tired and old. Her dad kept rubbing his face while her mom explained how Rosalie had always needed to control everything since she was 8 years old. They told Blake about finding her diary from middle school, where she'd written detailed plans to manipulate teachers into giving her better grades. Her mom cried when she described finding Rosalie's notebook of relationship strategies she'd used on Blake. They weren't making excuses, but wanted him to know she'd been seeing a therapist for years who kept saying she was getting better. Blake just sat there listening while they apologized over and over for not seeing the signs. 2 days later, a social worker named Josephina Ware called to schedule interviews with everyone involved. She came to my apartment first since I'd been there for most of the events. She asked detailed questions about what I'd witnessed and took notes on a tablet while recording our conversation. She interviewed Blake for 3 hours at his place, going through every interaction he'd had with Jessica and Mia. Then she spent an entire afternoon with Jessica and another session alone with Mia at their therapist's office. She even interviewed Tony and some of the wedding guests to understand the full situation. After all the interviews, she created a 30-page report with recommendations for supervised visitation. My girlfriend came over that night and started yelling the second she walked in. She said I was pathetic for spending so much time on Blake's problems instead of focusing on our relationship. She called me stupid for caring about some kid I'd never even met. I tried explaining that a child had almost died because of what Rosalie did, but she just got angrier. She threw my Xbox controller at the wall and said I had to choose between her and this drama. I looked at her face all twisted with anger and realized we saw the world completely differently. I told her to leave and not come back. She slammed the door so hard my neighbor came out to check if I was okay. Meanwhile, Jessica texted that Mia's therapist wanted to share something important about their last session. The therapist said Mia had spent 40 minutes drawing pictures of the wedding scene she'd seen online. She kept drawing Blake walking away from Rosalie and then crossing it out and starting over. She told the therapist she understood why Blake did it, but she was mad that everyone was talking about her now. Kids at the school had seen the video and kept asking if she was the secret daughter. She said she wished Blake had just called Rosalie out privately instead of making it this huge public thing. The therapist helped her write a list of feelings she wanted to tell Blake someday when she was ready. At Blake's office, his coworkers had started a petition without him knowing to get him reinstated. They collected over 200 signatures from clients saying they trusted Blake more after seeing him stand up for his daughter. One client even offered to pay Blake's salary personally if the firm wouldn't take him back. But the partners held an emergency meeting and decided the publicity was too risky for their reputation. They offered Blake a severance package if he'd sign papers saying he wouldn't sue for wrongful termination. Blake took the deal because he needed money for Mia more than he needed to fight them. 3 days after that, Rita called with bad news about Rosalie being released from her hold. The hospital had discharged her that morning, and by noon she'd shown up at Jessica's workplace. Security cameras showed her pacing outside for an hour before going inside and asking the receptionist for Jessica. When security tried to escort her out, she started screaming that Jessica had ruined her life. She threw a potted plant at the security guard and ran to her car before police arrived. Jessica had to leave work early and pick up Mia from the school because she was scared Rosalie might go there next. The violation meant an emergency court hearing got scheduled for the next morning. The judge reviewed the security footage and witness statements from Jessica's coworkers. Rosalie showed up with her parents and a lawyer, but she looked terrible with dark circles and unwashed hair. The judge issued a formal restraining order requiring Rosalie to stay 500 feet away from Blake, Jessica, and Mia. She also mandated therapy twice a week and anger management classes. Rosalie started crying when the judge said violating the order would mean jail time. Her lawyer had to practically carry her out of the courtroom. A week later, Josephina called to say she'd arranged the first supervised meeting between Blake and Mia. She'd found a quiet cafe with a back room and an exit door in case Mia needed to leave quickly. The meeting would last 30 minutes maximum, with Josephina staying the whole time. Blake arrived 20 minutes early and kept checking his watch and fixing his hair and his phone camera. Mia came in holding Jessica's hand and wouldn't look at Blake at first. She sat down across from him and stared at the table while Josephina explained the rules. Blake started by saying he was sorry without making any excuses about not knowing she existed. Mia asked why he never looked for her mom after camp, and he answered honestly about being young and stupid. She asked if he really sold his motorcycle, and his voice cracked when he said yes. Then she mentioned she'd seen pictures of motorcycles online and thought they looked cool. Blake's whole face changed, and he started telling her about the one he'd rebuilt with his dad when he was 16. He described taking the engine apart and putting it back together piece by piece. For the first time, Mia actually looked at him, and even smiled a little when he talked about accidentally spraying himself with oil. The meeting ended after 22 minutes when Mia stood up and said she was done. Blake didn't try to stop her or ask for a hug, just said thank you for meeting him. Josephina followed us outside and put her hand on Blake's shoulder while he watched Jessica's car pull away with Mia inside. She told Blake that 22 minutes was actually really good for a first meeting because it meant Mia was setting boundaries and testing if adults would respect them. Blake nodded and wiped his eyes with the back of his hand before getting into his car and driving home alone. That night, Rosalie posted a video on Facebook that spread everywhere within hours. She sat in what looked like her childhood bedroom with puffy eyes and messy hair, talking about how sorry she was for everything that happened. The problem was she spent 15 minutes talking about her own pain and mental health struggles and only mentioned Mia once at the very end. She went on about how the wedding disaster ruined her life and how she never meant to hurt anyone, but she was just trying to protect Blake from complications. The comments section turned into a war zone with people calling her every name you could think of. Someone screen recorded the video and posted it on Twitter, where it got even worse. Within 2 days, someone found her parents' address and posted it online along with her phone number and email. Blake called me at 3 in the morning because people were sending him screenshots of threats being made against Rosalie. We both hated what she did, but nobody deserved strangers showing up at their house or calling with death threats. Her parents had to disconnect their landline, and Rosalie moved back in with them because her apartment complex got so many complaints about reporters and angry people showing up. Blake spent the next week going through all the wedding stuff in storage, deciding what to do with everything. The dress went back to the shop for store credit, which they gave him even though it was past the return date. The decorations and centerpieces got donated to a local church. The honeymoon tickets to Hawaii got canceled for a partial refund. He took all the money from selling and returning things, plus the deposits they got back from vendors, and opened a college savings account in Mia's name. He didn't post about it or tell anyone except Jessica, who got the account information in a certified letter. The paternity test came back 2 weeks later, which surprised nobody since Mia looked exactly like Blake's baby pictures. The lab confirmed 99.9% match, and Blake's lawyer filed the paperwork to legally establish paternity that same day. Blake also filed for 12 years of back child support payments, even though Jessica hadn't asked for it because he wanted everything official and wanted to show he was taking responsibility. A month passed before Mia agreed to meet Blake again, and this time she picked the place which turned out to be a go-kart track 40 minutes away. Jessica stayed in the waiting area while Blake and Mia got their helmets and safety briefing from the teenage employee. Mia picked the fastest kart available and left Blake in the dust on the first race. She lapped him twice, and when he spun out trying to take a turn too fast, she actually laughed out loud. They raced 5 times total, and she won every single one, though Blake got a little better each time. After the last race, she high-fived him before running back to her mom. Jessica texted Blake later that night, saying it was the first time she'd seen Mia genuinely happy since everything started. 3 days later, I was buying milk at the grocery store near my apartment when I saw Rosalie in the cereal aisle. She looked terrible with dark circles under her eyes and clothes that hung loose on her frame like she'd lost 20 pounds. She saw me and started walking over.
At Ralph's, you never compromise. You get up high quality that's guaranteed fresh and lower than low prices. Now through September 30th, save even more during Customer Appreciation Week. Ralph's, fresh for everyone.
But stopped when she saw my face. We stood there for maybe 10 seconds just looking at each other before she turned around and walked the other way. There was nothing left to say, and we both knew it. Blake had been applying for jobs since his company put him on leave and finally got an offer from a smaller accounting firm across town. The pay was 30% less than his old job, but they knew about the whole situation and didn't care. They actually said they respected his honesty and offered flexible hours so he could go to Mia's therapy appointments. He accepted immediately and started the next Monday. Josephina called Blake for a progress meeting 6 weeks after that first cafe visit. She said Mia was doing better in therapy and starting to process what happened to her 2 years ago. The nightmares were still happening, but less often, and she wasn't flinching when people mentioned Blake's name anymore. Josephina recommended keeping the supervised visits going for at least 6 more months before trying anything unsupervised. Blake agreed without arguing because he knew pushing too fast would ruin any chance of a real relationship. Jessica started warming up to Blake after seeing him consistently show up and respect every boundary they set. She began sharing little things about Mia, like how she loved science experiments and had taught herself to skateboard using YouTube videos. She mentioned Mia had been teaching herself to cook by watching cooking shows and practicing when Jessica worked late. Blake wrote everything down in a notebook he kept in his car so he could remember every detail about his daughter. 2 days later, Blake showed me the cooking class schedule he'd printed out from the community center website and circled 3 different classes that fit around his work hours. He picked the basic knife skills one first, since Jessica mentioned Mia watched those cooking competition shows all the time, and the chefs were always talking about proper technique. I went with him to that first class where we both learned we'd been cutting onions wrong our whole lives, and the instructor kept fixing Blake's grip on the knife handle. Blake practiced at home every night that week, sending Jessica photos of his attempts at julienned carrots and diced peppers with messages saying maybe Mia would find them interesting, but only if she wanted to see them. Jessica started showing them to Mia, who apparently critiqued his knife angle, but in a way that made Blake actually happy because it meant she was paying attention. The court date for Rosalie's restraining order violation came up faster than expected, and Blake asked me to go with him for support. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, and Rosalie sat at the defendant's table looking like she'd aged 10 years in 3 months, with her hair pulled back and wearing a plain gray suit that hung loose on her frame. The judge reviewed the security footage from Jessica's workplace and the testimony from the security guards who'd had to escort Rosalie out. Rosalie stood when asked and told the judge she was accepted full responsibility for violating the order and understood she needed help dealing with what she'd done. The judge ordered 6 months of mandatory therapy, 200 hours of community service at a crisis hotline, and extended the restraining order for 5 years. Rosalie just nodded and signed the papers without arguing or trying to explain herself away like the old Rosalie would have done. Tony called me the next weekend saying Blake needed help moving and could I bring my truck. Blake had found a 2-bedroom apartment 15 minutes from Mia's school that cost half what his old place did, but had a small garage where he could work on projects. We loaded up his furniture, which wasn't much since Rosalie had kept most of their stuff, and Blake didn't fight her on it. The new place was basic, with white walls and old carpet, but Blake seemed lighter somehow as we carried boxes up the stairs. He'd already turned the second bedroom into what he called a maybe-someday room with a desk for homework and empty bookshelves he hoped to fill if Mia ever felt comfortable visiting. 3 weeks into the new apartment, Blake's phone buzzed during lunch, and his whole face changed when he saw it was from an unknown number. The message was just a photo of a DNA model made from pipe cleaners and beads with a caption that said, "Got an A on my science project," from Mia. Blake stared at it for probably 5 minutes before typing back, "That's amazing. The double helix structure looks perfect. Did you know DNA unzips like a zipper when cells divide?" With a little zipper emoji. Mia sent back a laughing face emoji, and that was it. But Blake screenshot the whole conversation and probably looked at it 50 times that day. By the 3-month mark after the wedding, the internet had moved on to some politician's scandal, and Blake could finally go to Target without someone recognizing him from that viral video. The grocery store clerk stopped whispering when he bought milk, and the stares at coffee shops mostly stopped, though. Occasionally someone would still point and whisper to their friend. Blake started spending evenings in his garage working on his dad's old motorcycle that Tony had helped him buy back from the guy who'd bought it from the shop. The engine was in worse shape than before, but Blake said working with his hands helped him process everything without having to think too hard about it. He'd send me photos of parts laid out on newspaper and oil-stained hands holding bolts that needed replacing. Jessica called him one Tuesday saying Rosalie's mom had reached out wanting to apologize for everything her daughter had done without asking for anything or trying to make excuses. Jessica told her she appreciated the apology and understood parents couldn't control their adult children's choices, but the restraining order would stay in place permanently. Rosalie's mom said she understood and just wanted them to know the family was deeply sorry for the pain Rosalie had caused Mia. 2 months into their supervised visits, Josefina called Blake with news that made him sit down on his kitchen floor. Mia had told her she wanted to try meeting Blake without supervision, but only in public places where she could leave if she felt uncomfortable. Blake literally cried right there on the linoleum while Josefina explained the conditions and safety plans they'd need to follow. The first unsupervised visit was set for a Saturday afternoon at an ice cream shop downtown, with the understanding that Mia could end it whenever she wanted. Blake got there 30 minutes early and switched tables twice trying to find the one that felt least intimidating. Mia showed up right on time and ordered mint chip while Blake got vanilla because his stomach was too nervous for anything else. They walked around the park after, talking about her friend drama at the school and a teacher who gave too much homework. Blake mostly listened and asked small questions that kept her talking about safe topics like her favorite subjects and what books she was reading for English class. She stayed the full hour they'd planned and even suggested maybe they could do mini golf next time since she'd seen a place near the ice cream shop. Jessica and Blake set up their communication through a court-approved app called Our Family Wizard that documented everything and kept conversations focused on Mia's schedule and needs. They worked out pickup times for visits and shared information about Mia's doctor appointments and school events without getting into personal territory. 3 weeks later, Blake's boss called him into the conference room where the whole accounting team had gathered with a sheet cake that said, "Welcome officially," in blue frosting. They'd voted to bring him on full-time after watching him handle the Mario audit without a single error, despite everything happening in his personal life. Blake stood there holding a plastic fork while his coworkers patted his back and told him they were glad he was staying. The next Saturday, Mia texted Jessica asking if she could see the motorcycle Blake had been working on, and Jessica drove her over to his garage, where he had the whole engine spread across a tarp on the concrete floor. Blake showed her each part and explained what it did while she sat cross-legged next to him, passing him tools when he asked. She watched him reconnect the spark plugs, and when he finished, she said, "Thanks for showing me Blake," which was the first time she'd ever used his name instead of just nodding or pointing. 6 months after that disaster of a wedding day, a letter arrived at the courthouse from Rosalie's therapist with an attached statement she'd written acknowledging the harm she'd caused to Mia. The letter didn't ask for forgiveness or try to explain her actions away, but simply stated she understood what she'd done was wrong, and she was working to understand why she'd made those choices. Blake and Mia settled into a pattern of weekly dinners at the pizza place near her school, where she'd tell him about her classes while they shared a pepperoni with extra cheese. Tuesday nights he'd help with her math homework over video chat, and once a month they'd pick something to do like bowling or the science museum, or just walking around the farmer's market eating samples. Jessica called Blake one afternoon to tell him Mia hadn't had a nightmare in 3 weeks, and her English teacher said she was participating more in class discussions. She'd even made 2 new friends who only knew her as the girl who was really good at chemistry, not as the kid from that viral wedding video. I watched Blake change from the guy who used to plan these huge romantic gestures into someone who got excited about small stuff like Mia asking him to explain how car batteries worked. He didn't talk as much as before, but when he did speak, it was real, not the performance he used to put on. Then Mia surprised everyone by filling out the form at the school, requesting Blake attend her science fair as her guest. When he walked into the gym, she actually waved him over to where she stood next to her project about soil pH levels and crop yields. Her teacher shook Blake's hand while Mia explained how she'd tested 15 different soil samples and tracked the results for 2 months. Other parents walked by looking at the different projects, but Blake stayed right next to Mia's table, asking her questions about her methodology and taking pictures of her charts. When the judges came around, Mia presented her findings without stumbling once and answered their questions about variable control and sample size like she'd been doing science fairs her whole life. They announced the winners an hour later, and when they called Mia's name for first place in the Earth Science category, Blake jumped up, clapping so loud people turned to look. Mia walked up to get her ribbon, trying not to smile too big, but I could see her glancing over at Blake, who was still standing and cheering. After everyone cleared out, I helped them load her project boards into Jessica's car, while Mia held her blue ribbon and kept reading the judge's comments about her exceptional attention to detail. Standing there in that empty parking lot watching Blake congratulate Mia on her win without trying to hug her or make it about him, I understood something important. The fairy tale romance Blake and Rosalie had was dead and buried, but this careful, honest connection he was building with Mia, based on respect and patience, instead of grand gestures, meant more than any flash mob or exotic flowers ever could. Real love wasn't about the big moments everyone posts on social media, but about showing up consistently and letting someone know you're proud of them for exactly who they are. And that's the story. I always look forward to your takes in the comments. Don't hold back. I'll be checking through them. Arrangements, stealing.
Have you ever regretted playing a Roblox game? I know I have. But what if that was the point? What if the game wanted you to regret it? Meet the Regretivator. Okay, here goes. Into the Regretivator. Oh, hey guys. What are y'all doing here? Okay, wait, is this the level we're at? 396? I literally just got here. This doesn't make any sense. How high does it go? Okay, and finish. That's what I want. Who's this guy? Who invited him? Is it his birthday? Huh? What's this? Flattywood? What is that? What is that? What is that? What? No. Stop. Close the door. Close the door. Close that door. Close it. What is that? Wait, it just stopped? You're not gonna kill me? Are you okay? Can you stop doing that? That is extremely annoying. Stop it. Stop. Did I just hit him? Hey, what is this? A ball pit. I like this. This is cool. I'm not regretting playing this at all. What's going on here? Wait, oh, that's it? Invisible Man says, balls. Thank you. I agree. Seriously, stop. Stop that. I've had enough. Dark room. No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Put your hand away. No, whoop. Stop. Okay, you're having a very romantic moment with the party guy, aren't you? Hey, what is this? Wait, is that cheese? Why is everything cheese? This is like Willy Wonka's place. This is his crib when he's done with chocolate. He goes home and it's just cheese. Is that what's happening? Because I would honestly live here. I love cheese. This is all I've ever wanted in life. I want to stay here forever. Is anyone going to ask where this guy came from? Like, I am extremely confused. What does he do? Why does he just exist? He just stands there. Whoa! No, not the back rooms. Anywhere but the back rooms. No! Okay, no monsters, right? Definitely no monsters. What was that? Did I hear something? I hope I didn't. Yeah, there's no monsters in here. This isn't too bad. I don't regret this. Happy birthday! How did you know? What? Stop! What is happening? Who's doing this? Why would you do this? Why would you do this on my birthday? No! Is that my present? Surprise! Thanks, guys! Wait. What? What is that? What is this hole for? Whoa! No! Come back! We were best friends! How could you just leave us like that? What is this? Yo, what is that? What's going on? Whoa! Wait a sec! Whoop! Stop! What? Stop! This isn't good. This is what's happening. I am gonna be sick. How am I still alive? Did I die yet? Wait, what? No, stop. Why does it keep making me roll? Stop! I want to go straight. There it is. I survived. I don't think I was meant to survive. No! A movie! Is this legal? Am I allowed to watch this? The Attack from Venus. Why not The Attack from Uranus? What's going on? Come on, where's the attack? The movie sucked! Okay, now I'm starting to regret things. What? What is that? What? Wait, is that a bomb? No, close the door! Close it! No, it's gonna explode! Stop! What? What's happening? Why isn't it blowing up? What is that? Is that a duck? What are you doing? Is that the king of Amazon? Why is he on a bunch of boxes? Whoa! Okay, that was not good. That was not good. Thank you. Wait. Wait a sec. What is this? An elevator? Inside an elevator? Make it stop. Whoa, okay. Whoa, what is that? Stop. No, not the angry man face. No. Stop. No, let's talk about this, please. I actually think your face is extremely attractive. Please, no, stop. I think you wanted to kiss me. Hey, Robux! I love Robux. I wake up every morning for Robux. What? No. No. What is this? Stop! Stop! No! Give me the Robux! Why is the Robux going away? Stop it. No! I think the thing I regret the most about this game is there's basically a loading screen after every round. Can you stop? Stop! Where'd you come from? What? What was that? What is this? Is this an office? Well, okay, my guy. Why would you do that? What is wrong with you? My name isn't Jem. Stop. What is this? Is this an obby? Am I meant to be in here? Who would put that there? That specifically. Okay, that guy's staying, I guess. What? Who invited you? What do you mean? What is this? This is sick. Wait, this is not sick. Is that an operating table? And someone peed all over it? Are you serious? Cerebrum melter. Aim for brain. Warning, keep away from head. Well, how are you gonna aim for someone's brain and keep it away from their head at the same time? That doesn't make any sense. Was that? What? Think that? Okay. Okay. Why would you do that? What did you call me? Juckle Knot? What is that? I'm not a Juckle Knot. I do regret playing this game. Open up! Give me a piece of that. Okay, you know what? Close up. Undo. Control, Alt, Delete, Stop. I do not. What? Who is this? Oh, it's just a picture? What? What's going on? Whoa! Where am I? Where are we? Stairs? To where? What is going on? Where does this lead me? Eyes? Okay. Yo, this is actually kind of sick. Who drew this? Whoa! Hey, this looks awesome! Bruh! I like this. Can we stay here? No. Okay, every time I want to stay here, they just make me regret asking. Your fault. Okay, you know what? I don't regret playing this game, but it kind of reminds me of this other.
Some projects really can change lives. This is why our Lowe's Red Vest associates show up, and our mission keeps growing. We're improving places where our communities connect. That's 10 million square feet of real impact. Lowe's, we're
Game called Useless Elevator. I don't think I've played it on the channel before. I mean, surely if it's useless, then I'll regret going on it, right? Wow, this one's way bigger. What's going on here? Why is it empty? Why am I the only one? Oh, hello. What are you online dating? What are you? What? What are both of you? Is this a real person? What is that? What is that? Okay, he was not happy about this pizza man online dating. Where did his pizza go? Where's my pizza? Why does she get a slice of pizza and I don't? Are you a simp? You're a simp pizza man? What's this? 1x, 1x, 1x. Wait, isn't that a hacker? What do you mean die? No! Look at it. Whoa! Okay, I was wondering why she was sniffing this wall, but I understand. She is smarter than all of us. No, stop using that stupid... What is that tool? Stop it! Put the potato away! Put it away! Wait, people are paying $200 to have this potato? Are you kidding me right now? I would literally pay you 200 real life dollars to never use that again. Stop! What is this? Wait, is this like you pick a side? Okay, I'm gonna pick yellow, cause... I don't know! Obviously, yellow's the best. We all know that. Come on, noobs. Come on, yellow. Come on! You wanna live, you come here. Thank you. Wait, what did I say? Oh, wait. Okay, genuinely, I didn't notice that, okay? I just picked yellow because of my hoodie. I didn't realize you had to follow the color. Did I just die? No, okay, I'm okay. How does anyone die here? Like, literally, it's just match the color. No! No! I am speechless.
In case you're wondering.
What? Whoa! What happened? Stop! What was that? At least I got rid of that stupid pizza guy. No! No, pizza will not fix this. Where are we right now? Where am I? Am I in space? Is that a duck? What is going on? A beach? Finally, I can relax. This has been so long. I've had to take so many elevators today. I'm starting to feel sick, honestly. What do you mean? Are you serious right now? Why do I keep dying? How is this elevator useless if I can die so many different ways? Does that sound useless to you? I'm just glad there's no more potatoes, honestly. If any of you buy a potato, you will hear from my manager. Don't think about it. Don't even think about it! No! Roblox house. Noob. Rail. What? Oh. Weather's kind of bad today, you know. Casual meteors falling from the sky. Nothing unusual. No!
A potato.
You have got to be kidding me. Who bought it? Which one of you? You! Why do you need that? Tell me right now. Are you? Literally, why? I will take you to McDonald's and get you French fries if I have to. Stop. Open! I would like to speak to the manager. Is this the manager? I would like to speak to you. Hello, excuse. That was the rudest thing anyone has ever done to me. Who do you think you are? You get back here right now. I want to speak to your manager. I don't care if you're the manager. I want to speak to your manager. You know what? No, you get out. Push him out. Guys, come on. Let's... Guys! We gotta push this idiot out. I think I can do it. Okay, if he stays on top of me, then we can just walk across. Okay, this is... You know what? This is the worst day of my life. Who are you? Are you this guy's manager? Are you the manager of the manager of the manager? I think they're communicating to each other through this potato. I think this is the only way they can talk to each other. Guys, seriously, why is everyone obsessed with this stupid potato? What are you guys doing? Why? You're not even playing! You're just doing the potato! I am gonna do... No, stop. No, you stop. Don't try to beat me. No! Stop. No, he cheated. He pushed me. He definitely pushed me. Oh, wait, he's behind me. Yes, good. No, don't worry. I got this. I can definitely do this. I'm the best at speed running. Everyone knows that. Well, that was close. That was really close. I didn't like that. That's not good. That's not good. Why am I speaking so quickly? No! You did that? Why'd you push me from all the way over here? No, well, okay, I got this. So the trick is, you just gotta not speak really quickly, because then if you speak really quickly, it makes you fall really quick. I got this, don't worry. 100%. Okay, I'm not... No! Yes, it's the game that sucks, not me. That's how it works. I want fart. Okay. I hope you achieve your dreams, my guy. Mr. I Want Fart, look at him. Standing up there, he is so powerful. He will get his fart if he wants it, okay? Go get your fart, my guy.
Can I have cheeseburger, please?
No, you cannot have cheeseburger, please. Can you stop, please? Ah! Am I close enough?
Can I have cheeseburger, please?
Did they just close on him? They did! Look, he's still out there. You know, how are you still alive?
Can I have cheeseburger, please? Cheeseburgers.
Cheeseburgers. What is it? Whoa! Am I getting rickrolled right now? I am extremely confused. This is what happens when you flush the toilet. I am currently a poop in the toilet. Thank you. Why are you roasting me? You're an NPC. Stop! Why do you buy another one? It's literally $200 and you're just casually buying that? Stop! Please. I will literally pay you Robux. Stop. Okay, I'm running as far as possible. Excuse me. How did she just do that? That is cheating. Okay, what is this? How is she running so quickly? What is this? What is this, Shrek's poop? Because I am glad I get to jump on it. Okay, that is a personal goal of mine, to jump on Shrek's poop. Did you just fall? Wait, that's the same girl from the start. Stop. Okay, I got this. I'm gonna win! Yeah! Whoa! That was close. That was actually close. Okay, I got this. There's no way I'm gonna fall. Wait, it better not actually make me fall. Whoa! Yeah, okay, that's pretty cool. I won! Where's my prize? Stupid, useless elevator. Just stop!
Yes, I'm still a potato.
Stop! I am genuinely scared of potatoes now. I don't like it anymore. I am never eating another French fry in my life. A pizza shop? Already got pizza. Wait! That's where he came from! No, guys, don't let him in. We don't need another one. Okay, one is more than enough. Stop. Thank you. He left. Do you think we hurt his feelings? Why did he... Can you stop, noob? Can I just... Stop moving. Stop. Let me... Stop. Die! I want to push him out! Why is everything so annoying?